السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. كيف حالكم جميعا يا أيها الإخوة والأخوات. Oh brothers and sisters in all Islam, this is your brother Nafis Abu Zayd. Alhamdulillah, and by the grace and fadl of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are able to reach day 6 of the blessed month of Ramadan. Also, alhamdulillah, by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we're able to continue our series dealing with the Qur'an, which should be the focal point of every Muslim by the permission of Allah Jalla wa Ala. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in His glorious book, شَهْرُ رَمَضَانَ الَّذِي أُنزِلَ فِيهِ الْقُرْآنِ. And there's no doubt that this blessed month is the month wherein the Qur'an was revealed. But the Qur'an, brothers and sisters, as we see from the tafsir of these tremendous verses that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is allowing us to able to go over and to ponder and reflect upon His book, we see the tremendous benefit that the Qur'an contains in it. Not just from the wisdom, not just from the different things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala points out, and that it comes from an all-wise, or someone who was all-wise when Allah is al-Hakim, or someone who was al-Alim, someone who was all-knowing, but the simple fact, the style and the manner and the grace of the Qur'an. There is no book on the face of this earth that compared to it, that is more refreshing, more delighting, more rejoicing, more soothing, from the way that it is its harmony, from its melody, from when reciting the Qur'an, the beauty of the Qur'an. Inshallah ta'ala, hopefully in this month we get in tune with that. We get in tune with that style. Before beginning, inshallah ta'ala, I want to mention that there is a particular surah in the Qur'an, a tremendous surah in the Qur'an, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He does this in multiple surahs, especially there are two surahs that comes to mind, where Allah Jalla wa Ala reiterate a phrase over and over for emphasis, for tawqeed, and it's not done haphazardly. It's not done just to not be placed there. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentioned in Surah Mursilat, just as well as in Surah Rahman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Ar-Rahman, Allama al-Qur'an, Khalaqa al-Insan, Allamahu al-Bayan. And you can just see, just in the beginning of this tremendous verse, which is just 4 verses here, but another 3 or 4 more verses, Allah Jalla wa Ala starts the first phrase when He say, فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ, which sets the theme for that whole entire surah. Which I believe is about 78 verses. Allah knows best. Allah said Ar-Rahman, and if you don't know, Ar-Rahman is one of the names of Allah Azza wa Jal, and is one of the perfect attributes of Allah, Ar-Rahman. And Ar-Rahman, brothers and sisters, is a name which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is dear to Allah. Okay? It is mentioned in Surah Mulk, Surah 67. Also is mentioned in multiple other surahs of calling Allah Jalla wa Ala Ar-Rahman. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in Surah Isra at the end, call on Him by Ar-Rahman, or whatever name you call on to Allah. To Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَلَهُ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى, to Him belong the most beautiful of names. Tayyib, in this beginning of that surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say Ar-Rahman, the most merciful. And there's no one on the creation, no one in the creation. There's nothing in existence that cannot testify to the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is nothing that cannot testify to the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when describing the mercy of Allah, he said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have 100 parts of mercy. And He gave one part of that mercy and kept 99 parts of it with Himself, but one part He gave to the creation. And that rahmah, wherein the mother, and you can see a little bit of this mercy here, which the mother has with the child, that the womb in Arabic is known or referred to as rahmah. Okay, that bond that is placed there between the mother and the child is extensive or is extended from that rahmah that Allah Jalla wa Ala actually have, the mercy that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has. As the Prophet ﷺ said to the companion who had 11 kids, and he said, "Rather, I do not show affection to any of my children," meaning I don't kiss them. And the Prophet ﷺ said, "You don't kiss any of your children?" And then he said what? He said, "He who does not show mercy, Allah, the one who in the heavens, will not show mercy to him." Mercy, brothers and sisters, is a quality that we should adopt. But the Quran is mercy. It's rahmatal. It is a rahmah, okay, for that which is in the breast. Allah say, Ar-Rahman, the most merciful. Allama al-Qur'an, the one who have taught the Quran, the one who have taught this recitation, taught this beautiful scripture. Because we know Jibreel alayhi salam, he came down with the revelation by the sending of Allah, by Allah sending him, and by the permission of Allah Jalla wa Ala, and he was the one who conveyed the words of Allah to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allama al-Qur'an, Allah Jalla wa Ala taught the Quran, and it's from the belief of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah that the Quran, just as it was revealed, it will be taken up in one night and removed from the breast and removed from the Musahif, from all of the pages on the earth. This is Allah's speech, brothers and sisters. Ar-Rahman, Allama al-Qur'an, Khalaqa al-Insan. Then Allah Jalla wa Ala said, He is the one who have created man. Allamahu al-Bayan, and He taught him bayan. He taught him to be lucid, clear in his speech. Everything on the face of this earth, brothers and sisters, have the ability or have the ability to communicate or already communicates. Whether it be from the fishes in the sea, whether it be from the animals, whether it be from our own cells, which we see that we can speak or produce sound, whether it be from different type of birds, okay, like the cockatoo bird that can repeat what you say. These things are signs showing you that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of His greatness and His grandeur, and of His mercy, that He gave everything a form of speech, of communication. Even trees can speak. Even the animals will speak. Even your limbs, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about. If He Surah Fussilat, Surah 41, Allah Jalla wa Ala talks about Him giving your limbs the ability to speak, to talk, to testify against you. Ar-Rahman, it was reported that from one of the Salaf that there was a companion who would get up in the night for his night prayer, and he recited just this first part of this surah for a long period of time. Ar-Rahman. He couldn't get past that first. He couldn't get past that first verse. Ar-Rahman. Okay, Allah's mercy. Just think about and ponder on Allah's mercy. Think about every single day you get up. It's by the mercy of Allah. Allah gave you life. Allah takes your soul. Allah return you back. Allah protects you with angels. Every day you might get in your vehicle. You drive your car, you could have been in an accident. The moment you step out your house, you could have been in an accident. The moment you went here, you went there, you could have been in an accident. You just don't know what Allah is protecting you from on a daily basis. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, we send you a band of angels from the right and from the left. To do what? To protect you. Ar-Rahman, that you're not even aware of. Allah talks about these angels in Surah Ra'd. Ar-Rahman. Okay, we wanted to start off before going into the actual tafsir, just to give us an understanding of Ar-Rahman, Allama al-Qur'an, that there was one companion, and we all know him as Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu ta'ala anhu. This noble companion, he stood up when he had took a shahada. He stood up in the Haram in Mecca when the Muslims were weak and they were being persecuted. He stood up in Mecca and recited this surah while the people were sitting outside and doing what they were doing, and then they started to throw things at him. He said, Ar-Rahman, and recited this surah. But Allah kept saying, فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ, reminding mankind and reminding the jinns who was here before us, reminding them, which of the favors of your Lord will you and men both deny? You breathe because it's Allah's rahmah. You see because it's Allah's rahmah. You hear because it's Allah's rahmah. You be able to grasp or touch something because it's Allah's rahmah. You walk because it's Allah's rahmah. Which of the favors of your Lord were you both gens denied? Ain't nothing you did was by your own accord. It was all by the rahmah of Allah. And that's by the beauty of Allah Jalla wa Ala and His mercy to allow us to be able to go over His book and to reflect upon it and allow us to fast in this blessed month, inshallah ta'ala. We reach, alhamdulillah, the second sifa out of those three tremendous verses. From the verses we told you, 3, 4, and 5. We did the first characteristics of the believers in these three verses, and that was the belief in the unseen. I think most or majority of us already believe in the unseen because we believe in Allah Azza wa Jal. Okay? Now the second sifa that Allah mentioned in these three verses, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَيُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةِ. So the believer is one who constantly what? Establishes the prayer. And Shaykh Fawzaan is going to explain to us what it is to iqamat as-salat. It's different from tusalli, okay? It's different from praying. And I think sometimes we forget what is prayer. Sometimes people forget what is prayer. Prayer is not just a bunch of movements or machinations. You're moving from one place to another. Okay, that's just not prayer. The meaning of salat, linguistically, it means dua. It means invocation. Okay? The meaning of salat, linguistically, it means dua. It doesn't mean just a bunch of movements from here and there. Those movements, by the permission of Allah, that was taught by Jibril to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they play a part as well. But the meaning of salat, the core of it is invocation. There is a verse in the Qur'an, fi Surah Furqan, the last verse of Surah Furqan, Surah 25. Allah said, if it wasn't for their dua, as it wasn't for their invocation, Allah would not be concerned with them. If it wasn't for their invocation, they're supplicating to Allah Jalla wa Ala. They're calling on to Allah Jalla wa Ala. Ibn Qayyim, the one who they call the Tabib al-Ruh, the doctor of the soul, or the Tabib al-Qalb, the doctor of the heart. Ibn Qayyim, he went in and he just reflected. He said that the servant is better. So what is better for the servant? That he had his dua answered? That he has his dua answered? Is it better for the servant to have his dua answered, or is it better for the servant to Allah to prolong the answer of his dua? He said it's better for the servant for Allah to prolong his dua, the answer of it. Why? Because in prolonging the response, the servant become more needy, the servant become more dependent, the servant become more in need, and then the servant will increase in his or her ibadah, his worship, his or her longing. And by doing that, they're praising Allah more. And in that state of being in more in need of Allah is better than actually getting what they're asking for. Allahu Akbar. Pondering just and reflecting on that. Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu, as was mentioned in the book of Kitab al-Fawaid, which Ibn al-Qayyim has a book known as Kitab al-Fawaid. Some of the Salaf in the past, what they used to do, they used to just take a book and write down all of the benefits that they come across. Allahu Akbar. It's something that we should do in our daily lives. We come across multiple things. So those benefits that we come across, we should just have a book. We can call it Fawaid, if you want to call it that, or you can call it benefits, if you want to call that, and just write down those things to remind yourself daily, or when you open it back up from time to time, or those pures and gems that you have came across in your life. Well, anyway, Umar ibn Khattab is reported to have said, it is not whether I have my dua answered. It is whether I can have the ability to make dua. It is not the fact that I have my dua answered. It is the fact that I can make dua. This is so deep. If you just think this concept, this is deep, brothers and sisters. I'm not trying to sound deep, but this is deep. Think about what he's saying here. He's saying that it's not the point whether or not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to listen to me and accept my dua and answer it. It's the point whether or not Allah is going to grant me the tawfiq to make it. How many individuals out there doesn't have the tawfiq to call on Allah? How many people out there Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not given them that tawfiq to be successful in worshiping Allah? Think. It's important to understand this, because we as Muslims cannot take nothing for granted. You're not Muslim because you came up with the idea to be Muslim. You're not Muslim or practice Islam because you came up with it. La. You're Muslim because Allah Jalla wa Ala chose to open your heart. As we should see in this particular verses, not in these three, but the next, which is the verse what we call 6 and 7. When Allah talks about the second category, the disbelievers, you should see that Allah خَتَمَ اللَّهُ قُلُوبِهِمْ. Allah sealed their hearts, but Allah didn't seal your heart by opening it up to Islam. It was Allah who opened it up to you. It was Allah out of His rahmah, out of His mercy. But He said it's not the point of that Allah answers, it's the point that I what? That Allah, that I can make it. That I am here to make it. Okay? That's what we have to ponder and reflect on. So he goes on, he says, the salat, it is the second pillar. This is something that all of us know. It is the second pillar from the 5 pillars of Islam. That's the first level, or the first tier of this deen. And we talked about that, about the deen having 3 levels. Tayyib, he says, Allah said, when you qimu. Allah said, when you qimu. وَلَمْ يَكُوا وَيُصَلُّونَ. He did not say they pray. He said that they establish. It's a difference. Allah Jalla wa'ala did not say that they pray. Okay? Meaning they can pray one time, they can pray whenever they feel like it. No. Allah said they establish. So he explains this. He says, because the objective or the purpose from prayer is not just to do its physical act, or just the form, or just how it look. No. He said it's only, the purpose is to establish it. Okay? It is to establish it. And he said, what does it mean when Allah Jalla wa'ala tells us to establish the prayer? That the believers are those who establish the prayer. It means that they perform the prayer in the manner that Allah has legislated the prayer to be performed. With its conditions, with its pillars, with its obligation and its sunnah acts. And for a lot of us, and this is what I want to take advice to those who speak, those who are stronger than me in ilm, in knowledge, those who have preceded me in studying, and as well as anyone who has the platform that teach people about Islam, whether it be in the masjid or whether it be, live, or whether it be anywhere that you go. Be mindful of the statement of Shaykh Saalih Fawzaan, where he said that when it comes to the amat nas, when it comes to the common folk, that the rule of thumb is that they are juhal when it comes to, they are ignorant when it comes to the affair of the deen. So by you understanding that is that you do not assume that the commoner knows what is right or what is wrong in the matters of the deen. By default, you don't give them that right. So by why is I'm saying this? Because sometimes you might see something take place, especially in our day and time. Some Muslim might do something, but you don't know how long that person been Muslim. You don't know whether or not that person understands fully what he or she is doing. So instead of getting upset, you want to educate them. You want to take that understanding that, okay, is this person a talib ilm? If this person isn't a talib ilm, then you can't hold them to a certain standard. If this person isn't a scholar, you can't hold them to a certain standard. If the person is an amateur nas, a common folk, then you're going to look at them just like Shaykh Saalih Fawzaan said, okay, let me educate this person. I can't think that this person understands exactly what he or she doing, because sometimes you might don't know. So for example, when we just mentioned multiple things, a lot of people don't know that the prayer have conditions. They don't know the difference between a condition nor a pillar. They don't know that the prayer has actual obligatory acts, obligations, or things that are sunnah. They don't know. So you can't assume because a person is Muslim, they go to a masjid that you go to, or a person sat in some classes that you sat in, that they know. They could have came across the information at one time, never actually took in the information like they supposed to, or they could have lost due to their sins, or due to their disobedience, or due to their forgiveness, or due to their negligence. It could have, escaped their mind. So you want to be mindful of that, of educating them. The prayer have conditions. The conditions are those things that come outside of the prayer. And the pillars are those things that hold up the prayer. And if you remove a pillar from the prayer, then you remove its foundation, and then there is no prayer. Like the conditions are set before. So he's saying here that the person who performs the prayer in the manner that it was legislated by Allah Azza wa Jal, and the manner that the Prophet ﷺ, as he says, Sallu kama ra'aytumuni usalli. Pray as you see me pray. Explaining to us how to pray. The prayer itself is a class. The prayer itself is a lesson. The prayer itself. And we're going to spend however long that Allah grant us, if we are believers trying to worship Allah, trying to perfect our prayer. There's not one prayer that we perform that we can feel confident, me, 100%, not even me, not even you, that prayer was on point. There is not. So you're going to spend the rest of your life as a Muslim that's practicing, trying to perfect your prayer. There is not a position in the prayer that is not debated, or there is a difference of opinion concerning it. There is not a part in the prayer except that there has been scholars who differ in regards to it. There are so many sunan elements of the prayer that we leave off that we don't even know. So it's important that we understand that we're going to spend the rest of our lives practicing Islam, trying to make that perfect prayer. The Prophet ﷺ is reported authentically to say that whoever performed 2 units of prayer, thinking about nothing but Allah, would get guaranteed paradise. I ask you right now, have you ever was able to do that? Just to perform 2 units of prayer. You say, okay, that's just 2. But you're thinking about nothing but Allah, not the Pico bill. Okay, not the bills, not your children, not what you're gonna do tomorrow, not what you're gonna eat, not what you're gonna break fast with, not where you're gonna go, not where you're gonna go, not when you're gonna take a nap, not this, not that. Can you think about Allah, just Allah? First of all, a lot of us don't even have the information about Allah. We don't even know Allah. You only can know Allah through what? You only can know Allah through His wahy, His revelation, through His beautiful names and His attributes. A lot of us don't know. So how can we reflect and ponder on Allah? Hey, you know Him by His actions. You know Him by things that He have done for you. Your invocations being answered. But how can you reflect on that and just perform without your mind being boggled with so many things in the dunya? Okay? So it's important to understand the matter of salah is important. It is the sillah. It is the connection between the servant and his or her Lord. It is the connection between the servant and his or Lord. And the closest the servant is in the salat is in the sujood, is in prostration, as the Prophet ﷺ is authentically reported to have said. The closest that the servant is to his Lord in prayer is when they are in sujood, when they are in prostration. So we have to understand this matter of prayer is not a light matter. This is why there is nothing out of the 5 pillars of Islam besides the Shahada and the Salat that takes you out of the fold of Islam if you leave it off. There's a difference of opinion whether or not some scholars say whether you leave the fold of Islam if you're just negligent of it, or whether you deny the obligation of it. But the companions unanimously agreed that if a person leaves off the prayer, that person is a kafir. They exit the fold of Islam. Because the prayer, brothers and sisters, the prayer, which is one of the first things from the acts of ibadah that was established, was the prayer. Performing the prayer. The Prophet ﷺ was performing prayer in Mecca. Jibreel ﷺ taught him how to pray in Mecca, where they was throwing stuff on him, camel dung and everything like that while he was praying. Performing prayer. Prayer is your connection to your Lord. This is why the Prophet ﷺ said what? Al-ahdu alladhi, the covenant between us and them is the salat. Man tarakaha kafr. Whoever leaves it off, kufr, is disbelief. The prayer. This is the testification. This is why Umar ibn Khattab, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, the second Khalifa, who was stabbed, who was bleeding out. This is why when the person was bleeding out, when he said that there is no salat, that means there's no Islam for the person who does not pray. There is no Islam for the person who does not pray. There is no Islam for the person that prays. Here he is dying. He's dying, but he's reminding the people again of the importance of Islam and prayer go hand in hand. You have no Islam without no prayer. So the believers are those who establishes the prayer according to all of these things. This is when the prayer works. When you understand the spiritual connection of the prayer. When you understand that ruh of the prayer, the humility of the prayer. Allah Jalla wa Ala, He says something in the Quran. I don't want to be too long-winded, but I just want us to get the gist of this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says something in the Quran. He said, "Wasta'in," and He says this twice. I want you to notice. It comes twice in the Quran. Once in Surah Baqarah, okay? Allah Jalla wa Ala said, "Wasta'inu bis-sabri was-salah." Okay? He says this twice in Baqarah, then He says this once in another. So it's actually come 3 times in the Quran. Once it said when dealing with Musa, when he responded to his people, and then Allah Jalla wa Ala says it twice in Baqarah. Okay, Allah Jalla wa Ala says, "Wasta'inu bis-sabri was-salah." Seek aid and assistance from who? From Allah through patience and prayer. This is the remedy for any calamity that befalls you, brothers and sisters. You must have two things that must be there, okay, to remove that calamity, to go through that calamity, to go through that trial and affliction that you're going through. The two remedies that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set for us to do is isti'an, is for isti'ana, is for us to seek the aid of Allah, do patience. We must be patient, whatever we are going through, enduring whatever Allah Jalla wa Ala has placed us through, and we must constantly make prayer. Dua. Wasta'inu bis-sabri was-salah. And I'm going to tell you something. Most of us don't do this. We go through a breakup, we listen to 100 R&B songs. Most of us, we lose our job, we go through something, we smoking cigarettes. We're drinking. We turn to some type of khamr. Most of us, we leave off the prayer. I'm going through something right now, Nakhi. I'm going through something right now, Ukti. Sister, I'm going through something right now. Make dua for me. The point that you're supposed to be making dua, we do the opposite. The opposite. The Prophet ﷺ was getting ready to fight the battle of Badr. He was getting ready to fight the battle of Badr. What was he doing? He was staying in dua like this with his cloak fell off of him. And a long dua, asking and begging Allah, do not let the small band of Muslims be eradicated. Because there will be no one left on the earth to worship you. And what did Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, what did he do? He picked up the Prophet ﷺ cloak and he said, indeed your Lord has heard you. But the Prophet ﷺ gave into the dua, to prayer. وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ. We're not doing that with prayer, because prayer is not an internal part to us. It's not something that is a core of us. Where's your connection? You wonder why people out here shooting each other just like that. You wonder why people are stabbing each other, or people backstabbing or backbiting, or just going crazy on one another, or just have no regard for one another. There's no trust amongst one another. You wonder why people can do you like that. I love this person. How can they do me like that? Whether they be kith or kin, family or foe. How can they do me like that? Why? Because you're forgetting the most important thing. Allah Jalla wa Ala said, Inna salata tanha anil fahsha'i wal munkar. Indeed, the salat prevents you from fahsha, from evil and all obscene different things, and from every type of munkar. Every type of thing that is disliked. Okay? So if Allah Jalla wa Ala is telling you the thing that prevents you from these things, the thing that keep you honorable, the thing that keep you trustworthy, the thing that keep you, not backbiting somebody, the thing that keep you straight, is the prayer. And you the weakest in the prayer? And you da'if in your prayer? The Prophet ﷺ said the prayer has been made a coolness for my eyes. A coolness for my eyes. And we're running from the prayer. Not the believers. The second characteristics, brothers and sisters, for the people who are upon Huda, they constantly establish the prayers. They constantly establish the prayer. That's their core life. They live from salat to salat, not from paycheck to paycheck, not from job to job, not revolving the salat around their work, but revolving their work and revolving their livelihood around the salat. These are the individuals that Allah is talking about. Not the people who pray awesome, not the people who only pray in Ramadan, not the people who only pray one prayer or two prayer here and there, not knowing. And Allah knows that the servant is deficient, but look what He did. He allowed the sunnah prayers to be an expiation for whatever we fall short in the fard prayers and the obligatory prayers. Allahu Akbar. One of the first things of the 5 things that the servant will be asked about is what? On the day of judgment. How was his prayer? Then Allah is going to look at his supererogatory prayers, just to make up for the slips and the mishap that he had in his obligatory prayer. The prayer, we can go on and on, brothers and sisters. The prayers is important, and this is what the believer has as his weapon. As it said that the dua is the weapon of the believer. So the Shaykh, he said, alhamdulillah, he said, this is establishing it outwardly. To establish it outwardly, wa iqamatul zahira, meaning to do what we just said, the pillars, the conditions, and all of these different things. This is to establish the prayer outwardly. And it is a must along with that you must also establish it inwardly. This deen has 2 types of parts to it. Okay? Whenever you look at this deen and whenever you're practicing this deen, there are always 2 parts. There's the tangible, there's the intangible. There is the physical part of it, then there's the spiritual part of it. And you must make sure that they are aligning with one another. Don't be the individual who are just humble in their limbs but not humble in their heart. Don't be the individual who just praying, or individual who just doing stuff physically but the spiritual is not in tune. You're not going to get the benefit. Fasting does not benefit the person who doesn't understand the spiritual part of the essence of it, and it's not matching with the physical. You understand? So it's important that we realize that we are spiritual beings experiencing a physical experience. That's all. It's not the other way around. We're not physical beings experiencing a spiritual experience. No, we are spiritual beings. Okay? We are spiritual beings. So in regards to that, we have to free our soul. Like the Prophet ﷺ, each day we free our soul or we enslave our soul. It's important to understand that. So the Shaykh, he says here that وَذَلِكَ بِخُشُوعٍ فِيهَا وَحُضُورُ قَابٍ فَإِقَامَةُ الصَّلَاةِ نَوْعَانِ. He says, so that, how do you internally, how do you inwardly establish the prayer? Now we know how to do it outwardly. How do we do it inwardly? He said that's done with khushu'. That is done with true humility, brothers and sisters. Khushu'. And then he says وَحُضُورُ الْقَلْبِ, meaning being attentive. Be attentive what you're saying. The Prophet ﷺ is reported to, whenever he prays, when he come across an ayat that talks about the hellfire, he would seek refuge in Allah from the hellfire. When he come across an ayat that would talk about paradise, he would ask Allah to grant him paradise. When he talk about rewards, he would ask Allah for. He was being attentive to what he was actually saying. Being attentive when you pray, understanding what you're saying, even though it's in Arabic, it can be an Arabic. How can I put it? Even though it's an Arabic language. Try to familiarize yourself with the surahs that you're going to recite in your prayer. Try to understand the Al-Fatiha, which is a prayer and a dua in and of itself. Okay? Understand this is important. He said that to establish, there are two types. He said the first type, we already talked about that. That's the outward aspects. Okay? And that's just doing it with his conditions, his pillars, his obligations, and his sunnah. That's the outward. So the second type, to establish the prayer, is inwardly, and that is the meat, that is the spirit or the essence of the prayer, and you need this inwardly to match with the outwardly. If you're just doing the outwardly, you have no inwardly, then it's not going to benefit you. It's not going to prevent you, and we ask Allah to allow us to get to that. I'm not saying that I got it or I got it figured out. I'm just telling you that this is the truth. If you want a better life, then look at your prayer. If you want to see how successful you are, then look how successful you are in prayer. Just that point. That's how the believer gauge their life. You want to know where you at in life? How you are in your prayer. That's all. How are you performing your prayer? If you are deficient in your prayer, if your prayer is not something utmost a part of your prayer, then your life got holes in and out. He continues, he says here, and that is the khushu', the essence. He said, فَإِنَّ مَنْ صَلَى بِدُونِ خُشُوعٍ وَلَا حُضُورُ قَلْبٍ فَإِنَّهُ لَا يَكْتُبُ لَهُ مِنَ الْأَجْرِ إِلَّا بِمِقْدَارٍ مَا عَقَلَ مِنْ صَلَاةٍ وَخَشَعَ فِيهِ. He says, for the person who performs the prayer without any khushu', without any humility, without any attentiveness, then indeed it would not be written for him any reward except to the extent of that which he is intelligent of, or he is aware of in his prayer, and he have khushu' in that part while doing that prayer. وَلَوْ أَقَامَهَا ظَاهِرًا بِشُرُوطِ وَأَرْكَانِهَا فَإِنَّ مُعَوَّلَ عَلَيْهِ لِقَامَتَانِ مَعًا. Pay attention, this was exactly what we just said. So if the person was to perform the prayer outwardly with all its conditions, his pillars and so forth, etc., right? Then it is a must that what? He must do it both inwardly and outwardly. The spiritual part of it as well as the physical part must align. That's how you get the maximal benefit. That's how you get the reward. Okay? And Allah is so just that He didn't totally wipe you off from it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so just and merciful that He rewards you for the part that you are attentive of, that you have khushu' on while you're in that prayer, while you have that humility part. Those parts. It's important. And this is just the second. This is just the second sifa, the second characteristics of the believers. They believe in the unseen. They believe in Allah. They believe in His angels. They believe in the last day. They believe in the day of judgment. They believe in the qadr, the good of it and the bad. Okay? They believe in these things. They believe in those prophets that Allah informed us about. and those ones that Allah did not inform us about. They believe in those things, but guess what they do? They immediately pray. They establish the sila, the connection between Allah and the servant. And if we are not 100% with our prayers, we're deficient. And the best thing that we have in front of us now to help us get better with our prayer is this month. The best thing that we have to help us get prayer. There is not a verse that you're going to see throughout the entire book of the Qur'an, except that Allah Jalla wa Ala is going to keep reiterating prayer. الَّذِينَ يُقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ. He's always going to reiterate prayer. Even Isa ibn Maryam, even him when he was a child, when he was an infant, and Allah gave him the ability to speak, what did he say? That I establish my prayer. That I worship my Lord, that I establish my prayer, and I give my zakah. He says this. Prayer, brothers and sisters, is important. Not an R&B song. Not a love breakup. Trust me, we all been there. Not getting drowned in your sorrows. Not going to pick up no drink. Not getting high. Not smoking. Not turning to this or turning to that. Not watching somebody who cannot give you anything. When did we start following the people who are lowly and under Allah's anger or curse over that people who have preceded us, who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with? Allah is pleased with them and they are pleased with Him. Why are we not following them? Their actions have been concluded. They have preceded us. So we have to look at our prayer. Our prayer. A companion was being persecuted. Okay, go back to the Surah. And they asked him, it's in Mecca, before they was going to execute him. They asked him, did he have anything that he wanted to do or anything he wanted to say, any last words? He said, no. He said, all I want to do is pray. Can I perform 2 units of prayer? That's all. 2 units of prayer. Another companion, this is in Bukhari, by the way, who was watching the Prophet ﷺ and the other companions as they was on an expedition. He was watching them so that the enemy wouldn't overtake them while they sleep. It was his turn to watch. And this companion, he got up and he said, you know what? I'm going to get 2 rewards tonight. I'm going to perform night prayer while I'm supposed to be on guard duty, not total way, but me and Qiyamul Layl. I'm going to talk to my Lord at night. And then I'm still going to guard the Prophet ﷺ and his companions. So there was an enemy, a guy from the Kuffar that was following the Prophet ﷺ and his companions. So he overcame them and he seen that they was unaware. So the companion that was supposed to have been on guard duty was what? He was having a conversation with his Lord. So the man, he took an arrow. An arrow is hard to shoot. So just imagine if you can shoot, if you can nook that arrow and you can shoot it and hit your target. Just imagine the pain that must go through if you get hit with Allah. He took the arrow, nooked it, and he shot it. The arrow came from the crossbow and hit the companion while he was praying. It hit him. He did not stop praying. Allahu Akbar. He did not stop praying. Right now, if a fly was to come and disturb us in our prayer, what would we be doing? All day. If a fly was to come while we praying, if a spider, if a bug was to fall on us while we praying, what would happen? Our khushu would be all over the place. Wallahi, an arrow pierced his body, his skin. He did not stop. The man took another arrow. This is amazing. It's a true story. Hit him again. Boom. He still did not stop praying. Yo, can you imagine? We off track with one bug. We off track with the fact that, oh yeah, that bug in our way, let me salam out real quick, deal with this, and I go back and pray. A conversation. The 3rd time, the only reason why he stopped, because he remembered he had to alarm the Prophet ﷺ and the companions that there was an enemy that was overtaking them. There was an enemy that was following them. So he stopped his conversation with his Lord. When it was all over and done, they asked him, they said, why didn't you stop your prayer? In that circumstances, you could have stopped your prayer. In that circumstances, you could have stopped. He said, I did not want to interrupt the conversation I was having with my Lord. Allahu Akbar. I did not want to interrupt the conversation. You see the level That's a level that, we read in books and we say that's amazing. No, that's real. That's Iman. That's the essence of the prayer. That's the essence of the prayer. And we're not there. So we can't be sitting here talking about we believers. Shaykh Saalih Rahmatullah Ta'ala said it's not permissible for an individual to say, Ana mu'min, and don't say inshallah behind it. Don't you dare fix your face and say, I'm a believer, and don't say inshallah behind it. No, if Allah will you a believer, you're deficient. Ramadan was sanctioned during battle. They were fasting during the battle of Badr, the second year of the Hijrah. Ramadan was, we cannot fix our face and say that we are believers with a straight face. We don't know, no. Inshallah, we are believers. Inshallah, we are servants of Allah. We cannot fix our face. Get off of your high horse. Get off of your arrogance. Leave it alone. Put it aside. You know all the fish you do. That's why Allah Jalla wa'ala said, فَلَا تُزَكُّوا أَنفُسَكُمْ هُوَ أَعْلَمُ بِمَنِ اتَّقَى. Allah said, do not ascribe purity to yourselves, for He knows best of you who fear Him the most. Allah knows. You don't got to try to pin on ears for nobody. You know what you do. You know how deficient you are. You know sometimes you don't even want to get up and pray. You know when you do get up and pray, as Allah Jalla wa'ala tells us about the hypocrites, what He said, وَإِذَا قَامُوا صَلَاةً وَإِذَا قَامُوا الصَّلَاةَ قَامُوا إِلَى صلاة قاموا خسالى يراءون الناس ولا يذكرون الله إلا قليلا. May Allah protect us from the hypocrites. Allah said when they stand up to pray, they stand up to be seen amongst men. To be seen, look y'all, I'm praying. And they only remember Allah, just a few. The prayer is not really what they're doing. This is the characteristics that we want to get to. You want to be a believer, fix your prayer. You want to be a believer, establish your prayer. You want to be a believer, constantly guard your prayer. You want to be a believer, make sure your prayer is actually what it needs to be done. That's when you want to reach the level of some type of mu'min, when your prayer is there. If your prayer got holes in it and it took Ramadan for you, alhamdulillah, we don't discourage nobody. We're glad that Ramadan came to allow us to get back and fuel back up so that we can get ourselves together. But I'm just saying, if you wasn't praying all before then and then Ramadan came, you can't be running around talking about you're a believer. No, it don't work that way. Establish your prayer. Establish your prayer. I don't care what goes on in life. You establish your prayer. That's what sets you apart. Not a prostration mark. That don't set you apart. Not a beard, sisters. Shaykh Saalih said not every person who come with a beard and practice isbal with their pants above their ankles are trustworthy. So I'm a married, ooh, mashallah, look at him, he's tall, he's handsome, he got a long beard, but he's deficient in his prayer. Kaif. Yo Wakil not asking about that? Yo Ali is not asking about that? Does he pray? I remember one time, I was traveling with Muhammad Amin, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserve the Shaykh, and he was talking about an individual who wanted one of his daughter's hands in marriage. And he said the first thing, the first thing I was looking for, Brother Nafisi was telling me, he said, I'll look and see a man's prayer. Is he in prayer doing Fajr? I look in the ranks and I see if he's in prayer doing Fajr. The man was looking out for his daughter, being a wali, saying that, hold up, if this man is praying his prayer, is he performing his prayers? This what makes you an upstanding person. This what makes you a man. You want to talk about masculinity. You want to talk about a rajul being a rujula. Rujula is prayer. Establishing iqamat salah is rujula. This is what a man does. This is what a man does. And a woman who does not encourage their men to pray, she's not a good woman. She's not a good woman. Do not allow a man to just sit there with you and he doesn't pray. Some of the scholars say that it's grounds, permissible grounds for a woman to seek divorce from her husband if the husband abandons prayer. If the husband abandons prayer. If the man cannot give Allah his right, we'll make sure that he will give you your right. So that's what we wanted to bring today. Inshallah ta'ala, we ever said that was incorrect, it's from ourselves and from the shaitan. Whoever said was correct, it's from Allah Jalla wa'ala. Please, brothers and sisters, try to reflect over these verses and take advantage of this blessed month. This is the month of Ramadan. We had our first Jumu'ah, alhamdulillah, Friday, yesterday, and try to get your prayers in. Please remember this: whatever deed you are doing, you can increase but do not go overboard. What do I mean? Beware of ghulu, extremism. Don't burn yourself out. Just try to be consistent. If you don't complete the Quran by the end of this month, there is no sin upon you. Just take your time. If you don't get to do multiple prayers like you wanted to, or give multiple abundance of charity, guess what? Whatever you did, if it was sincerely and you did it sincerely and you was consistent, that's what matters. These are magnified. So try your best. If you spent this whole month just trying to restrict yourself from committing sins, and you didn't get a chance in doing Qiyamul Layl, and you didn't get a chance in doing Taraweeh and all that stuff, you didn't get a chance, guess what? You're still doing good. You got to get past the concept that you need to be doing what the next man is doing. You got to get past the concept that you need to be doing what someone else is doing. You're not playing race with nobody. You're racing for Allah's forgiveness, but you're not racing them. You're racing them in the sense that, yo, I'm going to go to my Lord steady, and I'm going to be sincere in my endeavor. And I'm going to ask Allah Jalla to accept my actions. In order for my actions to be accepted, I have to make sure I fulfill those conditions. And that's what we wanted to bring, inshallah ta'ala. And inshallah ta'ala, in day 7th, inshallah, we will go on to the third characteristics of the believers. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us these characteristics and aid us and assist us so that we can have these characteristics and be believers. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. جزاك الله خير. ما شاء الله.